The video game world has become so massive, and is one of the most profitable industries of all time, producing some of the most iconic IPs in recent memory like Last of Us and Uncharted. But IT wasn't always like this. Back when I was growing up in the 2000s there weren't a lot of groundbreaking video games like we have today. We had a few solid game series like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Kingdom Hearts, Tony Hawk Pro Skater and many others. But most of the gaming industry was made up of tie-in games, mostly for movies and TV shows. Pixar was one of the forerunners of this trend. We got classics like the Finding Nemo game, the Cars game, and my personal favorite, the Incredibles game, a truly iconic game from my childhood, and one that I think is a lot better than most people give IT credit for. Nowadays it's seen as nothing more than a cheap cash-in on the Pixar movie like all the other tie-in games released during that time. And today I want to talk about why I think IT holds up pretty well today and why I think IT deserves a bit more recognition. So let's talk about why the Incredibles game is an underrated classic. So I really don't need to go over the story, since it's basically the same as the movie, but with a few additions. There are some levels that link up directly with the movie's plot and narrative, but IT also does its own thing from time to time. Levels like Buddy Pine and Bomb Voyage, Apartment Inferno, Great Falls, Syndrome Space, 100 Mile Dash, Incrediball, Rocket Silo and Saving the World are all connected to the movie scenes in some way, either the beginning or the end of the level. As for the level structure, they're all pretty much the same. Mr. Incredible levels have you destroy stuff, lift something to activate or disable lasers and activating switches. Elastigirl levels involve her powers of stretching, grabbing onto things and you guessed IT activating switches. Dash levels are exactly the same, only you don't have the ability to do anything other than run or speed. And if you get hit by anything, you die, which is a huge pain in the ass, especially when you have to make a sharp turn at a specific moment. Violet only gets one level and it is just awful. You have to make sure the guards don't see you by hiding or turning invisible, and if you get shot once or hit, you die, and I dread IT every single time I start a new game. It is so fucking difficult. Sometimes it's so hard I wonder if I'm even going to get through the damned level. The Incrediball level is my personal favorite out of all of them. The Incrediball controls very well, and I had a lot of fun destroying shit just by slightly touching IT, and you can cause a lot of damage in this level, and it is so damn satisfying. As for the controls, Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl control excellently. Mr. Incredible is so fun to play as with his super strength and super punches and even his throws. I never had a hard time controlling Mr. Incredible. There were times where his levels got incredibly hard, but other than that he's a blast to play as. As for Elastigirl, her levels are pretty fun, but she's NLT is fun to play as. The bits where you have to grab something and hold on for a certain amount of time got tedious and sometimes hurt my fingers. Especially in levels like Finding Mr. Incredible and Secret Lava Labs were a sore to get through. Even her attacks aren't as satisfying or enjoyable as Mr. Incredible's, like the spin attack and the stretchy punch are just so lackluster compared to Mr. Incredible's attacks. As for the boss battles, they're pretty good for the most part. Both Buddy Pine and Bomb Voyage and Volcanic Eruption are pretty well put together. The helicopter has some pretty cool weapons that you have to dodge and bombs that you have to throw at IT. And Volcanic Eruption is a pretty enthralling level and is the right amount of hard and simple. IT isn't too long and not too short, it's the right amount of length. Unfortunately, Great Falls is just more of the same, not terrible but not great either, and those blades the Omnidroid shoots at you can be very annoying, and Saving the World is a pathetic final boss level, and is one of the worst final battles in a video game ever, especially since we don't get a battle with Syndrome, even though he's on the fucking cover. The graphics for this game are very solid and don't look that bad. The developers for this game, as well as being one of the main developers for the remaining Pixar games after this, was Heavy Iron Studios. WHO also developed SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom and Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights, and I gotta say they did a pretty good job. They definitely captured the look and feel of the Incredibles. Sure, IT doesn't look as refined as games that came out today and looks a bit dated, but IT still looks pretty good. The score was also pretty good. Some of these, in my opinion, are the most iconic and recognizable Incredibles music pieces, even more so than the movies. Especially the track that plays at the end of Syndrome Space. It is so Incredibles. And even though the game ends in such a lame and boring way, there is a way they made up for IT. Depending on whether or not you were playing the Xbox version or the PlayStation 2 version, there's a secret level you can unlock, which is a battle arena level, and takes place in the same arena that was in the level Robot Arena, where you have to fight 9 waves of bad guys, each wave harder than the last, finally culminating in all the bad guys you've fought over the course of the level, including the giant robot tank. It's fun and really tests your abilities. Why does IT matter? Which game system you have IT on though? It's because on the PlayStation 2, after you complete Syndrome Space, you unlock IT and can play IT whenever you want if you go to Battle Select. On the Xbox version, however, you have to be on Xbox Live to play that level, which doesn't make any sense. It's not like you can play with other players. It's the exact same level as it is on the PlayStation 2 version, so why not just make IT unlockable on the Xbox version as well? But regardless of that, I still think the Incredibles game is great. It's not perfect and IT definitely has issues. Some levels are way too hard, some levels drag on, and some levels are just downright lame. But it is such an enjoyable and highly satisfying experience that you'll walk away happy you played IT. This is definitely the Pixar game I played the most, and the one that I have the most nostalgia for. It's definitely got a lot more going for IT than people give IT credit for, and IT deserves to be remembered as a timeless classic. And that is why I think the Incredibles game is an underrated classic. Anyways guys, what do you think of the Incredibles game? Do you like IT or dislike IT? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.